Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name's Rick Lawton. I'll be the moderator tonight, as I have for several years, a long time. We'll get started right off the bat here. I just wanted to introduce myself, tell you that very proud citizen here in Durham. My grandkids will be the fourth generation to go through Oyster River School District. My grandkids that live in Durham here are the fifth generation to live here, so we're very proud to live in this school district. If you would join me, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Before we start the work of the evening, we're going to have a Distinguished Service Award. Tom Newkirk is going to present that award, then we'll get going on our work of the evening. Tom?
I clearly have the best job of the evening. And I'd like to start with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Oyster River has been fortunate to have Kristen Forselius as a dedicated member of our community. She is a mother to Liam, class of 21, and Evelyn, class of 22. Her service to the Oyster River Cooperative School District is notable, and we want to honor her with the Distinguished Service Award. Kristen has worked tirelessly to provide thoughtful insights and opportunities on how to improve our school community and the student experience. Throughout this work, she has kept students at the center. Kristen's work with the diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice has been systematic and grassroots. She has been a member of the DEIJ Oyster River Community School District Community Group since its inception, and most recently, she has volunteered her time on the DEIJ District Coordinating Committee. Kristen has given countless hours towards this work, which challenges us all to ask difficult but important questions. Kristen has also volunteered countless hours to expand school-based opportunities for students. She spearheaded community book groups, as well as the Oyster River Middle School Diversity Club, which continues to thrive today. Kristen was also central in the formation of the Oyster River High School First Robotics team. First Robotics had disappeared from the high school years ago, and Kristen was integral in reviving it. First Robotics is a national program. Teams of students are challenged to raise funds, design a team brand, hone teamwork skills, and build and program industrial-sized robots to play a difficult field game against like-minded competitors. It is as close to real-world engineering as a student can get. When Kristen began her work with FIRST 4 years ago, there were only a handful of students. Today, there are over 20 students involved with many parent volunteers. Kristen worked tenaciously to ensure that this opportunity would be available at Oyster River. For the past 2 years, Kristen has been an organizing parent for Project Graduation. Project Graduation provides graduating seniors a safe and celebratory opportunity in the evening of their graduation. During the COVID, this presented challenges, and Kristen worked creatively to make an event happen. This year, she continues to use her superb organizational skills and creative ideas with Project Graduation for the class of 2022. Suzanne Philippone writes, she's a champion for all students. Kristen has challenged our community to embrace new opportunities for kids and has given her time to provide safe and enjoyable opportunities. Jay Richard writes, Kristen has a huge heart for children and has provided thoughtful insight on how to improve the student experience at Oyster River Middle School. It is our pleasure to honor Kristen with the Distinguished Service Award. Kristen.
say I have done a lot of volunteering. We're very, very, very lucky to be part of a school district that invites parents in and community members in and that listens to our ideas and is receptive to them. I don't do anything alone, so there are lots of things mentioned. Never worked alone. I've worked with probably half of you in this audience to make all those things happen. So thanks for letting me work with you and be a part of it. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Let me explain a little as to how the evening should proceed. We're going to try to rule Robert's Rules of Order, not a strict interpretation. Everybody's going to get to speak or ask a question. We'd ask that each person speak once to the question. There are more people in line to let them speak. And then if you have a question, please direct it through me to the people up here on the stage. I will get an answer for you. When you come to the microphone, if you'd please identify yourself so that the secretary knows who it is, so we can reflect it in the minutes, and the town that you reside in. Our work is to review and present the warrant articles and amend them if warranted. So as we start the work in the evening, I'd like to read the MS-26 that was posted. It reads, I certify that on January 24th, 2022, I posted the MS-26, the default budget, and the written warrant attested by the school board of the Oyster River Cooperative School District in the town of Durham at the Oyster River Middle School and the Oyster River High School. The place of the meeting, in the town of Lee at the Massway School and in the town of Madbury at Moheramet School. It is signed by Wendy DeFuscio, and it is notarized, and I have a copy of that here with me. So we'll start the business, and I will start reading of the evening to go. To the inhabitants of the Oyster River Cooperative School District of Durham, Lee, and Madbury, qualified to vote upon district affairs. You are hereby notified to meet at the Oyster River High School in said district on the 8th day of February 2022 at 7 o'clock in the evening for session 1 of the annual school district meeting with discussion of Articles 3 through 6 for any amendments thereto. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended, and no warrant article should be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article at session 1. The official balloting for school district officers, Articles 1 and 2, and on Articles 3 through 6 will occur at town polling locations on Tuesday, March 8, 2022. The town of Durham, the Oyster River High School, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Lee, the Lee Transfer Station, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Madbury, Madbury Town Hall, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Article 1 will be to choose a moderator for the coming year. Article 2, to choose 2 at-large school board members for the ensuing 3 years. Article 3 will be presented by Brian Cisneros. Brian?
Warrant Article 3. Shall the district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant article and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $52,133,325. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $51,721,541, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the district or by law, or the district may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of the revised operating budget only. School board recommends this appropriation. Majority vote is required. You'll see in the note, Fund 10, which is our regular operating budget, is $50,668,275. Expenditures from food service revenues, which is Fund 21, is $824,050. Fund 22 is expenditures from federal and special revenues at $600,000. And Fund 23, which are expenditures from pass-through funds, at $41,000. Moderator, I make a motion to place this article on the warrant.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Going to explain warrant Article 3 now.
Thank you all for coming. This is a great turnout, actually, probably the best since we had the middle school bond a couple years ago. So, school board this year set a goal for the 22-23 budget of 4.1%, which is about $2,060,451 of spending increases over the approved 21-22 budget. This includes all the funds that I just went over, Fund 10, 21, 22, and 23, and all warrant articles recommended by the board. That includes the articles that will be discussed later during this meeting. Revenue and reserve accounts can be used to offset expenses, and in order to reach this goal, the board chose to use $400,000 from expendable trust funds and $500,000 from our emergency fund to lower impact on towns. Our major cost drivers this year, for 22-23, we had a 4.5% increase in our health insurance costs, which is total $255,000. Our Teachers Guild agreement, we're in year 3 out of 5, is $730,000. Our ARESPA agreement, which will be the first year, again, we'll be discussing that later, of $86,981. Our ORPAS agreement, again, the first year that we'll be discussing later, is $183,009. The bond for the middle school, $280,046. And obviously, we have some new positions. One of them is a tutor at the middle school at $50,000, another tutor at the high school at $50,000, one elementary science and math teacher for $96,000, 2 custodians at the new middle school for $131,000, and 1 DEIJ coordinator for $130,000. To go over the DEIJ coordinator, I will have school board member UC Terrell come up.
Brian. The board asked me to present on this particular position. I know it's the reason that many of you have come out tonight, and along with Denise Day, I serve on the Superintendent's DEIJ committee. It's a multi-stakeholder committee that's been meeting for 2 years regularly, comprised of educators, students, administrators, parents, community members, and Denise and myself. So the DEIJ coordinator. DEIJ stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Justice. It reflects that we live in an increasingly diverse country and community, which is a strength to be celebrated. It also reflects that all children in our schools and all people inside and outside of our schools have the right to safety and belonging, and the right to see themselves represented in what and how they are learning. As a district, Oyster River has had a long-standing commitment to supporting all students. We have policies on transgender rights and anti-racism. Our sustainability policy highlights the intersections between social, environmental, and economic justice. Our special education program has a $10 million budget and a dedicated director who was recognized this year as New Hampshire's Special Education Administrator of the Year. Over the past 5 years, we've worked with consultants to provide DEIJ-related trainings and to recommend how the district can improve our work in this area. We've held a number of forums, which have been very well attended, again, probably by many of the people in this room. Individual teachers have updated their curricula to include more diverse perspectives and build students' critical thinking skills, and taken steps to ensure that all students feel welcome and seen. This is despite New Hampshire legislation that threatens teachers' livelihoods if they teach about so-called divisive concepts. Despite this progress, we as a district have hit our limit in the expertise and capacity necessary to do this work skillfully and consistently. Dr. Morse likens this situation to one we faced with technology 10 years ago. 10 years ago, early adopting teachers and principals who were into technology supported and taught it. It was a hit or miss approach. Some classes used and taught technology while others did not. It was not until the district supported a comprehensive and systemic approach, inclusive of tech support and tech integration, that we could guarantee the skills students were taught at each grade level. Likewise, we currently have a hit or miss approach to DEIJ. Some teachers are doing amazing work. The primary role of the DEIJ coordinator will be to work with our educators to develop best practices for curriculum and instruction, as well as support compassionate, equitable policies and practices across the district. This work is consistent with our vision of a graduate and with our strategic priorities of the multi-tiered system of support and social emotional learning, MTSS at SEL. It is also what we've heard from the many teachers, students, and parents who wrote in or shared their experiences about how, despite good intent, we were not, as a district, we're not yet living up to our commitment to support every student. Beyond consultants who deliver a report or deliver a training and leave, we need a member of the district team who can build trust and relationships and be available at any time to support situations as they unfold. By design, this is an integrated position. We are not carving off a separate DEIJ fiefdom. We are ensuring that administrators and faculty have extra expertise and capacity to meet their goals. We already have an assistant superintendent who oversees K-12 curriculum and instruction, but she needs extra support to embed DEIJ skillfully. Similarly, our special education director, Catherine Plurt, has noted the critical overlaps between DEIJ challenges and mental and emotional health. Because this is an integrated position, the indicators we will use to measure the success of this role will be similar to how our administration is evaluated currently. For example, the MTSS metrics and academic achievement, especially with historically marginalized groups, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and other data on social emotional learning, since we know that the marginalized groups may have stronger depression or likelihood of suicide. And finally, the development of vertically aligned K-12 competencies and related indicators. I know there will be other questions in the discussion, so at this point, we'll turn back to Brian.
Wanted to share, I know this is kind of a busy slide, but I wanted to share our tax rate history, projected versus actual, because I'm going to go over what the projected tax rate is in each town here in the cooperative district. But if you find your town and go through there, you'll see generally what we recommend, what we conservatively estimate at the deliberative session is not usually what comes up when they set the tax rates, generally around November. Reason being is revaluations come in, revenue changes, and it tends to generally go down. There's a few years here you'll see where it stayed the same, but for the most part, it's gone down. For example, my town of Lee, in 2021, we projected the share for the school to be $24.19 per thousand. When the tax rate was actually set, it turned out to be $15.18. So that's just an example of what we say today versus what may happen in the future. That generally is the rule, although it's nothing we can promise because, again, it is a conservative estimate. We did discuss how we were looking to take money from trust funds this year. This is kind of a summary of the trust funds we have. There is about 8 of them here. The emergency fund, last year, we actually were planning on taking $500,000 out of it to offset taxes. At the end of the year, we did not do that because we had enough funding to not have to do that, and we actually left it in our emergency fund. We're looking to do the same thing this year. If we can do it, we will follow that same path. We're looking to take money out in order to pay for the new tennis courts that will be going where the athletic fields. You'll notice we built new parking lots across the street where the tennis courts used to be. Now we're going to build competition-level tennis courts so our tennis team can play competitively at our home courts. So we are in a cooperative district, which means we have a community apportionment and state aid. So proposed amount apportioned to the cooperative communities, in other words, the amount that will be raised through taxation from the members of this district is $45,478,523. Represents a net increase of 4.08% over the 21-22 budget. And how that gets broken out, and it's not a very simple formula, it's a very complicated formula. Tried to recreate it myself a few times, and it's not as easy as it sounds, but it goes with evaluation and the amount of kids in the district is a big part of it. So the way it's broken out today, Durham holds 54.08% of that total apportioned amount, Lee 30.75%, and Madbury 15.15%. And yes, it doesn't add up to 100% exactly because of rounding. So the estimated tax impact for the fall of 2022, as I said, it's a conservative estimate. Durham is 85 cents per thousand, or a 4.92% increase. Lee is a 16% per thousand increase, 1.08%. Madbury actually looks like a 6-cent decrease per thousand, so a decrease of 0.3%. The default budget, in the event that this budget fails to be approved at the vote in March, then we will go to the default budget. It automatically becomes a default budget. So our proposed budget, again, is $52,133,325. The default budget is $51,721,541. So the default budget is $411,784 less than what we're proposing here today. And with that, I will answer any questions anybody may have.
You've heard warrant Article 3. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Please identify yourself and the town you live in.
Hi, I'm Ruth Sample, and I live in Lee. And I would like to move to amend Article 3.
Do you have it in writing?
Yes, I do. Would you like me to read it first?
Yes.
Okay. So in Article 3, change totaling $52,133,325 to totaling $52,033,325, and change Fund 10, $50,668,275 regular operating budget to Fund 10, $50,568,275 regular operating budget. The title of this motion is to replace funding for a $130,000 full-time DEI administrator position with a $30,000 funding for DEIJ consultants by removing $100,000 from the operating budget.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Is there a second? Somebody, you need to come to the microphone and identify yourself, please.
I'm Dean Rubine from Lee, and I second.
Thank you. I see the motion, please. Okay, there's a motion
Should have given your.
to amend, replace the funding of $120,000 for a full-time DEIJ position with $30,000 funding from the DEIJ consultants by removing $100,000 from the operating budget. That would change in Article 3, total the present total of $52,133,325 to a new total of $52,033,325, and change Fund 10 to $50,668,275. Fund 10 from $50,668,275. Is that correct?
Yes, may I speak to the motion?
You may.
Okay, so I know that some people disagree with the need to address DEIJ issues, and I do not. I teach them all the time at UNH in my classes. I teach feminism, racism, critical race theory. So I think these are really important issues, and they need to be addressed. However, the problems identified so far in the district would not be addressed by a full-time administrator as described in the updated job description. The problems identified so far involve student behavior and language, the lack of diversity in our faculty, the difficulty of discussing both history and current events in a politically charged atmosphere, and communicating with the public about DEI issues, as well as managing the HB2 divisive concepts law. So I think all of those things need to be addressed. The problem I see is I don't see how a full-time administrator at a salary of $130,000 a year, which is a permanent position, would address those problems. In fact, it seems to me that this is premature. We could have hired consultants to do a need assessment for the whole district and come up with a list of action items with measurable outcomes. This has not been done. It is not clear that we need a full-time administrator to address these issues. For a lot less money, $2,500 a day, we could hire a consultant to provide guidance to everybody who needs guidance on all of these issues. So I think it's premature without having this kind of assessment. I also want to make 2 points that were initially made by board members. At the budget workshop, which I reviewed this afternoon, board member Newkirk pointed out that this person that we would hire, the proposed hire, would need one or more consultants to be able to have expertise in the areas they would need. That's on top of $130,000 a year, which, by the way, was $120,000 this morning. So it's gone up $10,000 just in the last few hours. So that's one problem. It seems like this is going to cost more, and the person would not actually have expertise in these areas to solve the problems that were enumerated. The other point that I want to reiterate is that Board Member Cisneros pointed out that it's not possible to measure how well this administrator would be doing their job because there are no clear duties that are attached to this job. So I think having a full-time administrator is premature, and I think for a one-time expenditure, which is why I'm proposing that we keep at least $30,000 a portion for this for the year, we could hire a consultant to come in and advise us on how to manage these different issues. So if students are using racial slurs in online chats, there is someone out there who specializes in how to deal with that. If there is someone who's harassing kids who use the gender-neutral bathroom, someone out there specializes in how to deal with that. I do not see the need at this point for a full-time administrator. So for that reason, I think we should reserve monies for qualified consultants to come up with a plan, as I said, that has a clear needs assessment attached to it, has actionable items with measurable outcomes. So that's what I'm asking for. I just want to reiterate, I'm 100% behind DEIJ. I teach it myself. I'm glad to see the district acting on it. I just think this is a bad plan.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion from the floor? Please identify yourself.
Hi, I have signatures for a secret ballot, so if I could pass them to you.
Yes, good evening. My name's Darren Keller, live in Lee. I share many of the same sentiments as Ms. Sample. Just to be clear, I'm actually married to an immigrant. I actually lived overseas for nearly a dozen years. So I have personal experience on both sides of this, what my wife experienced here, as well as myself being an immigrant when I lived overseas. That said, if I was a teacher in this district, I probably would be upset to hear a board member, like Ms. Terrell did in the February 2nd board meeting, refer to the position as lucrative. Those aren't my words, those were hers. You can look in the YouTube video. Secondly, if I'm a teacher and I look at the salary that was put forward, and we have STEM teachers, we have people that, are working with our children every day who probably aren't making anywhere near that and probably not being paid at a lucrative salary. And I find it actually quite offensive, and if I was a teacher, I'd probably be pretty offended by it too. So I can't support that position at all. I think we have other needs. If you look at the Department of Education statistics online, we're in the low to mid 60% proficiency for math. And while the superintendent would say, well, that's great, we're one of the better districts, we're nowhere near the top. There's many districts that beat us. So that's 35+% of our kids, the reason why we're here, who aren't proficient. Should we spend money supporting them, or should we spend money on a DIJ coordinator when we already have special ed, and we spend a lot of money in special ed? We spend a lot of money in counseling. And the district does, I just want to make this clear, the district does a lot of good things, but I cannot support this DIJ position. We do not have endless funds. And at the end of the day, it's a fixed volume. And if we are taking money from our budget and then putting it into DIJ, that comes at a cost. It's not free.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this amendment? You have to come up to the microphone.
Todd Allen from Lee. I actually had a clarifying question. That $130,000, that reflects the salary and benefits and the whole total cost of the position. So I'm assuming the salary is more in line with what we would pay an assistant principal level position. Am I accurate about that?
Correct, yes.
So $130,000 is the entire position. It would answer to the assistant superintendent to work to facilitate curriculum development and all of the things that have been highlighted, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. I also would like to just point out a couple of things. I have a little of experience in this area. Some of you may know I was the assistant superintendent. But the idea of hiring consultants, while there are wonderful consultants out there, it is important to note that we have been hiring consultants. We've done a lot of work with consultants. We hired New Hampshire Listens, which has done a lot of the coordinating of conversation, dialogues in the community. We've hired 2 Revs, which did a lot of work around classroom level work. We've also had multiple other individuals with expertise in various areas of equity, diversity, inclusion work with our staffs. So it isn't a shortage of consultants out there. It's the ability to coordinate the effort. And I think it would be unfortunate not to note that at the central office level, we actually have one of the smallest administrative staffs of any school district in the entire state. We have 1 assistant superintendent that's responsible for 13 curriculum areas. And if you're talking about layering on more things, the efficiency of that effort gets significantly reduced. I think this position is, in my mind, it's a desperate need. There are so many complicated issues politically, curricularly, social-emotionally. There's just so much that needs to be addressed. I will acknowledge that certainly the position could be more refined in time, but I think part of the struggle is getting a person in there with the expertise to help do that work and to make that happen. So from my perspective, this is money well spent, and it would be it would be missing the point to reduce the budget by that, because it wouldn't get us what we think it's going to get. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Peter Taubman. I'm a resident, recently a full-time resident of Durham. I retired after 22 years of being a professor in New York and after 20 years of teaching high school in New York. And I have to say, I find it astonishing that in 2022, we are actually debating a position that has over the past 30 years come to be taken for granted in not only public schools in New York, but some of the best public schools in New Hampshire, and I will tell you, in every single independent prep school in the Northeast. Now, I realize that we don't necessarily want to emulate schools that cater to the children of the well-to-do prep schools, including basically every kid of a recent president. But I don't think we want to be educational dinosaurs either. Given our multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multiracial nation, we want to be a community that stands up for American values of justice, democracy, equity, and inclusion, not a community miring us in an educational backwater. Our youth are entitled to an education that prepares them for a future and helps them study and understand our nation's very complicated history. Having a DEIJ director or coordinator makes a clear and unequivocal commitment to such an education and to equity and inclusion. Having someone primarily leading these efforts and working collaboratively with other administrators and faculty, as well as students and parents, builds the district's capacity to make tangible progress and to join so many other schools across this nation. Thank you.
Anybody else from the floor would like to speak?
Hi, I am Lauren Selig from Durham, and before I make my comment, I have a question. I know they passed a ballot or a petition signing saying we have to have a secret ballot. Is there some number of signatures I can get to counter that?
A secret ballot's been asked for, and the right number of signatures are there, so it's not a contest of who gets the most signatures. So.
I'm just wondering because most of us would like to vote in public, so I'm just wondering if we can.
No, a secret ballot's been properly asked for.
Okay. I just want to say I completely disagree with Ruth about the importance of this position. I think it's critically important at this point. We've done so much work and made such great progress as we can with the consultants we have and with the teachers we have. But our teachers are being very clear that they don't have as much support as they need, and they don't have the knowledge or the time, given their limited time, as we're already asking them to take care of our children's mental health, educational, nutritional, and every other need possible in addition to everything else. The gentleman just made a comment about this wouldn't address special ed. This position also includes supporting our special education students, and the other money that's dedicated for special ed needs, that's federally mandated money. So I'm not sure where he's going with that, but just in terms of facts. Another thing is that it's not just about students being inappropriate or rude, it's making sure teachers are able to speak in the classrooms. It's important to implement lessons that educate about and to all students. It's important to help have curriculum and curricular choices that are reflected in our curriculum. Our ninth grade curriculum has only one book that addresses anything about, or ninth grade English curriculum, at least in previous years, has only had one book that addressed African American experience, and it was written by a white woman. We need to have curricular choices that are reflecting different voices and different perspectives, and we need someone to help guide that. Our teachers need support not just in addressing instances of discrimination and bullying, but also in how to carry out everyday conversations around these issues. Students are asking questions. Our teachers need to be able to safely facilitate these discussions and maintain their civility. Students need to feel respected and supported in order to have the best possible career at Oyster River, to have a well-rounded education and gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, each other, and the world we live in, we need to learn from multiple perspectives of history. Unfortunately, our teachers have never been taught how to educate us about non-white, non-heterosexual narratives. And for most of them, the idea to do this hasn't necessarily even crossed their minds. Being taught about only one type of student, one who many students cannot fully relate to, makes many marginalized students feel alone in their struggles. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to hear from one of the board members.
I wanted briefly to address Mr. Keller's comment about the lucrative. It's easy to cherry pick from meetings and meeting minutes. The context at the latest meeting was a question whether, in fact, the salary should be increased, because, in fact, senior teachers and administrators, as Mr. Allen mentioned, already have very high salaries. And so the question was should we increase the salary? And since we will be looking from a number of different fields for this, the comment about lucrative was in comparison to nonprofit employees, where I used to work and where many of you work, it is an attractive salary, and we should stay instead of increasing it. It leads to the danger, though, of cherry-picking quotes, and to Ms. Sample's comments about what other board members have mentioned. I think it's important that we are able as a board to wrestle with these complicated decisions and to voice doubts and to push and to advance the dialogue about this for Oyster River. Remember that the board did vote for this position, and it is in the budget that we've proposed. Finally, towards consulting, I just wanted to give a quick example of what that could look like. With HB2 divisive concepts passed this summer, there is understandably concern and confusion from educators about what they could and could not say in the classroom. I attended a webinar by Drummond Woodson, our attorneys, on the implications for educators of the law, and I found myself in the awkward position in some conversations with educators trying to convey what I had heard. That shouldn't be my job. I'm not an expert in any way. What the district did is brought in Drummond Woodson and brought in New Hampshire Listens to lead professional development at the start of the year. Now think, you as an educator, you don't have all of your curriculum set out at the beginning of the year. You're not going to remember the hypothetical presentation from outside consultants from a month ago as you're trying to set what you're going to be doing in that day or in that week. Similarly, if there were a racial slur in the, would you rely on training from 5 months ago, or would you feel more empowered by a less expert but present DEIJ coordinator who you could bounce ideas off of? So, just getting a little bit more into the weeds. We've had consultants for 5 years. We have a report from a summer UNH graduate student that is sitting on the shelf on how we bring it into action. We don't have the capacity, and we don't have the trust and relationships to bridge the gap from expertise to implementation.
Brian?
John Parsons, Durham. I have a procedural question or two. My understanding, based on Mr. Lawton's answer to Lauren Selig, is that with a petition presented appropriately, we now are legally required to have a paper ballot.
That's correct.
That's correct?
That's correct.
My recollection from 46 years of district meetings is that the polls need to be open for an entire hour for that paper ballot. Is that accurate?
I'll have to ask our learned attorney on that, Mr. Parsons. It's been a while since we've done this. I don't believe so. But
I hope not, but no.
no.
How do you know when everyone has voted? How do you know?
I'll ask the crowd if anybody has voted.
Okay. Then
Much like we do when we raise our little cards.
The hours for a bond. Hours for a bond.
Sorry, sir?
For a bond article.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was for a bond ballot.
Okay, so hopefully my final question. Before we start on a paper ballot, I'd like to request that we do a non-binding sentiment of the attendance here, hand ballot.
Ask the question again, Mr. Parsons, I'm sorry.
I'd like a show of hands on the amendment. Non-binding show of hands on the amendment before we do a paper ballot.
I spoke about that, and we feel that that may adversely impact the vote, so we're not going to do that, sir.
Is there a law specifically prohibiting that? Is there an opinion, is there a precedent prohibiting that?
By law, when someone asks for a secret ballot with five names in writing, you need to have a secret ballot.
That's fine. I'm just asking for a show of hands, non-binding, before that.
For what?
Questions asked.
You can't do that. I mean, they're entitled to the secret ballot vote, and it only takes 5 people to make that request.
I'm not suggesting that we not have the paper ballot. I'm suggesting that we start with a quick show of hands.
It's our attorney's recommendation that that's not correct. We can't do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak to this? Excuse me. Mr. Newkirk?
I'd just like to make a point of clarification. I did make a comment at the budget hearing that I thought the description of the jobs was too broad and diverse, but the vote we had at the meeting on Tuesday, when we approved the position was, the number of items was reduced by about half, so there was much more clarity in terms of the focus of the position, and I was able to support it. Also, the position is a full-year position, so if you compare it to a teacher's position, there's a lot more days demanded of this position.
Before you speak again, I want to make sure nobody else wants to speak first.
I just have one quick question.
That's okay. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak to this question? From the floor, from up here? Mr. Howland?
So I think Ruth raised really excellent questions. There are questions that, as we were working through the budget process, that we actually thought about. In fact, we debated as we were voting on it, should we wait? Should we do it as a half-year position and give ourselves more time to develop a better understanding or a better protocol or job description? And ultimately what swayed us was that while we would like more time, we didn't have more time. The changes that the state has occurred, as well as the students that are at risk in our district currently, really called to action that we begin to work to develop. And again, in the spring, the board would have the ability to refine what the position looked like, refine what the matrix are, and embed the position in the district. Again, I thought Todd, when he talked about consultants are great, but at our current time, we really need someone embedded to drive the project forward systematically, rather than bringing in consultants and having them leave. So is it a perfect situation? No. But the risk is great enough to really require that we add the position.
Thank you. Al makes an excellent point. The other point I want to emphasize that swayed me to support the position when we voted on the budget was that there is a tremendous amount of ongoing work on essentially a volunteer basis being done by our teachers to navigate the new realities of being a teacher in the state of New Hampshire. The burden of that struck me as fairly significant, and it struck me that it's only going to increase. The other piece of it is the work they're doing to navigate the changes, the external pressures at the state level is not effectively being conveyed throughout the school district because we simply lack the capacity to coordinate that. And this position is the answer to that capacity and coordination piece that we're lacking presently. So that's why I found it compelling and why I supported it.
Always let everybody speak first before we let somebody speak twice, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Krista Butts, Lee, New Hampshire. I'd like to call the question.
There's been a call from the floor to call the question. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of calling the question signify by raising your card. Those opposed signify by raising your card. Question's been called. So let me clarify, the amendment that we're voting on is basically to remove $100,000 from the operating budget, changing the totals of the Article 3 from $52,133,325 to $52,033,325, and Fund 10 from $50,668,275 to $50,568,275. We're going to have a secret ballot. Wendy, how are we set up for that? If everybody would bring their ballot card with them, their voting card, so you can identify yourself to the ballot clerk. And if we get this done as quickly as we can, I'll poll the audience and make sure that everybody's had a chance to vote.
We've never had a secret
Help yourselves up there. Yes, sir, go ahead. You can ask a question.
Yeah, it's just a procedural question. So what we're voting on now is just the motion.
It's a motion. It's a
not
motion.
for Article 3, because I have another
No, sir.
motion
That's the
related
one,
to
but
Article 3.
We're voting on the amendment. The amendment
Okay,
only.
gotcha.
You may proceed to the ballot clerks at your convenience.
All right, so.
Mr. Moderator, we couldn't hear what you said about the process.
I know, I
Yeah,
can't-
we
I
don't
need
know
one of those
how
things
this
in
is
my ear.
working.
I
We've
cannot hear
never
any-
had to do this.
On who's-
Right, but how do we do, how's, so we have to go up and give our card, or?
Showing you tried to video.
Oh,
How do we vote?
So if you vote no, you're voting no for the amendment.
Yes is to reduce the budget. Oh, but I'm saying, how do they know? Because we put our card.
Just to clarify, so everybody knows, you're voting only on the amendment. You're voting to amend the Article 3 by $100,000 less, just of the amendment, not the article itself. That'll still come up for vote after that.
I'm so sorry, excuse me. Hi, I'm Serena Coe from Durham. I think there's a lot of talk, we're kind of confused as exactly what the vote is. We
I'm
feel
gonna
like it's
say-
really important.
Can I have your attention for just 1 second, please,
Could we just have a
everyone?
little clarification, please? Like, for instance, I really strongly...
I have it,
Okay,
thank you.
great, thank you.
A yes vote changes the warrant article by reducing it $100,000. We're still going to vote on the warrant article afterwards. A yes vote supports the amendment to decrease it by $100,000, then we'll go back to the warrant article again. So a yes vote decreases the budget that's submitted by $100,000. A no vote keeps it the same.
I'll put Maria D'Agostino down. She'll do it. Yeah, I think they're.
We've never had this before you started writing all this stuff. I'm going to get Bill, what's his name back?
last name? He's like, oh, I just don't know. And just kind of leaving it at that. All right.
Have your attention, please. Has everybody voted? Have your attention, please, everybody. Just 1 second here. Has everybody voted on the amendment? Okay, so we'll count the ballots. The ballot box is closed.
Oh, not yet.
Wendy, can we get one of the ballot clerks to come up and assist me with it? Oh, you? No, one of the ballot clerks, please.
David, I was so surprised when you and your wife went by me running that day. You just said a low bill.
Watch your step here. I'm going to go over here, so. Okay, can I have your attention, please? Thank you, everyone. The amendment to warrant Article 3 fails. The vote was 163 no to 21 yes. We are back to warrant Article 3. Is there any further discussion on warrant Article 3? Excuse me, hold on. Yes, sir. Is it on?
CL?
There you go.
Oh, great. Seth Vermonti, Durham. I'd like to call the question on warrant Article 3 as written and amended, approved by the board. That's it.
There has been, call the question on warrant Article 3. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, raise your voter card. All those opposed? All right. So it's been called. That was the motion. Now we're going to vote on warrant Article 3 as written. Those in favor signify by raising your card. Those opposed signify by raising your card. Warrant Article 3 is accepted as written. Yes, yes.
Mr. Auditor, I'd like to make a motion to restrict Article 3 from further reconsideration.
There's a motion made that warrant Article 3 will be restricted from reconsideration. Is there a second?
I second.
Those in favor signify by raising your cards. Those opposed signify by raising your cards. Warrant Article 3 is restricted from reconsideration. We'll move on to warrant Article 4, which will be presented by Dan Klein.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Klein. I make a motion to adopt warrant Article 4, which reads as follows. Article 4, shall the district vote to approve within the provisions of New Hampshire RSA 273-A:3 the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Oyster River Educational Support Personnel Association and the Oyster River School Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. For the 22-23 school year, $86,981. The 23-24 school year, $75,527. The 24-25 school year, $77,505. 2025-26 school year, $81,588. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $86,981 for the 22-23 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increases in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. School board recommends.
There's been a motion to accept warrant Article 4. Is there a second? We have a second. Discussion, explanation.
Thank you. So this article represents the results of negotiations between the board and ORDSD, which is the negotiating unit that represents the district's administrators and principals. One thing that might stand out in contrast to other warrants of this type is the first year is a higher number increase than the subsequent years. This is essentially a reflection of adjustments to inflation and the jobs market to regain a competitive advantage that our previous contract did not offer. And I will take any questions.
Warrant Article 4 has been moved, seconded, explained. Is there any discussion from the floor? Yes, sir. What's your step?
I just need to make a correction in Board Member Klein's presentation. This is the agreement between the board and our custodial staff.
That's how it's presented, though. It's how it's presented in writing. Mr. Klein just misspoke. Is there any discussion from the floor? Hearing none, those in favor of warrant Article 4 as presented signify by raising your card. Those opposed signify by raising your card. Warrant Article 4 as written is accepted. Warrant Article 5. Mr. Klein.
Thank you. All right, I have a better feeling about this one. Make a motion to adopt warrant Article 5, which reads as follows. Article 5, shall the district vote to approve within the provisions of New Hampshire? Thank you. Even better feeling now. Okay. Shall the district vote to approve within the provisions of New Hampshire RSA 273-A:3 the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Oyster River para-educators and support staff and the Oyster River Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. 22-23 school year, $183,009. The 23-24 school year, $131,958. 24-25 year, $136,126. The 25-26 year, $157,347. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $183,009 for the 2022-23 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increases in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels.
Warrant Article 5 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion from the floor? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Dean Rubine from Lee. I was wondering if you could tell me, I mean, these are the raises, like 183,000 is the raise. Can you tell me what the base is, the total salary that's the raise on? And also, can you tell me how many people are employed in this article?
Do you have that? 5% increase, and the number of $84 members.
Yep. Any further discussion? Those in favor of warrant Article 5 as presented, please signify by raising your card. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Warrant Article 5 is accepted as written. Warrant Article 6 will be presented by Mr. Williams.
Mr. Moderator, I would like to move warrant Article number 6 to the ballot. Article 6 reads, shall the district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,000 to be added to the Facilities Development, Maintenance, and Replacement Trust, which was established in March of 2017. This sum to come from the June 30th fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. The school board recommends this appropriation, majority vote required, no amounts to be raised from taxation.
There's been a motion made on warrant Article 6. Is there a second? There's a second. Any discussion from the floor on warrant Article 6? Those in favor of warrant Article 6 as written, raise your card. Those opposed to warrant Article 6, raise your card. Warrant Article 6 is accepted as written. That's the last warrant article for our discussion tonight. I would like to thank everyone for coming. I would thank everyone for the debate. That's why we come here, and that's what you are supposed to be able to do. Mr. Parsons.
I move we adjourn.
The motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Those in favor? Just let me read the polling times and places one more time. Town of Lee, Oyster River High School, 7 to 7. Town of Lee, Lee Transfer Station is posted 7 to 7. Town of Madbury, 11 to 7 p.m. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you letting me do this.